How are we doing, guys? We are back again with your opposition preview, all Leeds TV. As always, we never let you down. Me and Joe skied for a couple of days, but we are back again anyway. And we're joined by two fantastic guests. First of all, we've got Carefree Lewis G. How are things, mate?
I'm good. How you guys been?
Good, man. Not bad at all, mate. Not bad at all. Looking forward to this. I think this game, now that Lampard's gone, to be fair, I think beforehand, I think Joe Wayman would be bouncing off the walls here. He'd have been bouncing off the walls going into this game.
Yeah, I was looking forward to going to this. Like, obviously, with the pandemic and everything, that's not going to happen. But I was looking forward to sort of fixture for years. I haven't done Leeds v Chelsea yet. Been going home and away for years now, but that's still one ground I haven't ticked off. But yeah, glad to be back. This rivalry's been back for the first time in years. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And we're also, of course, joined by Nini from Blue Lions TV. How are things, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Obviously excited for this game on the afternoon of Saturday. I feel like with us under Tuchel right now, we look kind of unbeatable right now. So, of course, I'm looking at this Leeds game thinking, okay, this is 3 points that we can get.
Do you know what, mate? I'm not looking forward to it, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think, I don't know. It's a game that I'm really not looking forward to this weekend, if I'm being totally honest, because I agree with what Nana's just said. They look a different animal at the minute. But yeah, that's what we're here for, innit? At the end of the day, that's what we're in the Premier League for, man, to pit our wits against the good teams, and Chelsea are certainly that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think under Tuchel now, you actually, this is like a really, really scary game almost. Well, it is really, really scary game for us. So let's talk, first of all, I'll go to you first, Lewis, but obviously, in the last couple of weeks, I mean, to be fair, a figure who me and Joe have been very critical of and now not too fond of, Mr. Frank Lampard, got sacked by Chelsea recently, and I won't pretend Joe was pretty happy about that. That was one of Joe's high points for the season. What were your thoughts to the sacking? Was it coming? Was it to be unexpected, or did you see it coming for quite a while?
I wouldn't say quite a while, but things escalated really quickly. Like, I'll say December, we lost to Everton and we lost to Wolves, and it was like, okay, it's a blip. It's fine. Like, we'll get through. We beat West Ham. Things look like they're going back to normal. Then the Arsenal game happens, absolute calamity, start to finish, one of the most embarrassing results we've had in the Roman Abramovich era. Suddenly there's a bit of question marks. Man City game comes round. I was happy with the lineup. I was happy with the team that we put out. I thought it was a team that could really take the game to Man City. And we were still 3-0 down in 20 minutes. And the tactics still looked the same. And I still say it wasn't fully on Frank Lampard. Players definitely take some of the blame for it as well. It is not 100% on him in general. But Frank Lampard, I think, was out of depth for what Chelsea wanted. Like, the fact is, Chelsea is a ruthless club. Whether we like it or not, or whether we think it's right or it's not, we know what Chelsea are capable of. My most depressing moment when a manager got sacked was when Mourinho got sacked the second time. That one really hurt me. And since then, it's been like, I expect this. If they don't reach their targets, or if they don't look like they're going to reach their targets, they're going to get sacked. And that's just been the case. I've seen Antonio Conte, who won us the league and the cup in 2 separate seasons, get sacked 2-3 days into the next campaign. They even brought him in for pre-season and then sacked him. So was it right? That's a debate for whether you wanted to look at it long-term or not. But in terms of whether we expect it to happen, like, the writing was more on the wall. Like the Leicester City game, I'm sure the players knew how important that game was to Frank Lampard. And we played it like it was a pre-season match. And Frank Lampard was standing there on the touchline with the same look, the same expression I saw Mourinho have there in 2015 as well. It looked like the writing was on the wall. If anything, just the surprise was we gave him to the Luton game. But fair play for it. Like, at least we won that game. He gets to go out on a high. But obviously, no one holds it against Lampard. And I still think he leaves the club in 10 times a better place than it was when he walked in. And really and truly, that was just his main job. So I don't look at it as a failure. It just looks like Chelsea, to be honest. We're a ruthless club. That's why Tuchel's the same thing. He walked into the job and said he was worried about how long he'd get here. But then he just thought, well, that's the job anyway. Like, if I fail, they're going to sack me. So I might as well go in there and find out. That's the thing. Like, it's kind of Lampard's fault, but it's also heavily out of his depth, and he can't be blamed for that. But it's Chelsea. That's the only thing I can say.
When you say the club's was in a 10 times better place than when he started with, just in what sense would that be, Lewis? As such, if that
Oscar doesn't agree with you whatsoever.
No, I know a lot of Chelsea fans who feel that. To be fair, and just genuinely interested. That's
I get it because we were 10th in the table and our form was absolutely atrocious by that point. So I understand that. But in terms of a squad, like when he came into the squad, we were in the middle of a transfer ban. Eden Hazard was sacked. And the squad that we had, like I was walking into that season thinking we might finish 6th if we're lucky, like in a good season. Like I was prepared to take a massive step back from my previous expectations with Chelsea. And we got 4th place. Realistically, if we have a better goalkeeper than Kepa, we could have even got 2nd place. That's Frank Lampard's first season. And now we've gone and got a bunch of players who, to be honest, now we found out most of them were the board signings anyway. But it took Frank Lampard taking them to 4th place to get that. So in terms of the squad that we have now, he has left us in a much better place. Positionally, no, we were 10th. Like, of course it wasn't. But in terms of the squad that we have and how we can look forward, that's why it was the perfect time to do it. And now we're reaping the rewards.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, Nai, were you a fan of Lampard being sacked, or do you think he should have got a bit more time, or do you just think it's the board possibly to blame in terms of the signings?
I think that's... Oh, sorry. Was that for me or was that for you, Lewis?
I think that was for you. That was my fault. Sorry.
Man, it's cool. It's cool, man. But I don't know. I feel like with the whole situation with Frank getting sacked, it was quite complicated. I don't think it was as black as white as how it's been painted out. I look at last season in particular, and I feel like Frank Lampard has to get his credit. I don't think many managers, last season with players that we had, introducing so many young players into the team as well. We didn't have much experience at this level too, would be able to get us into a Champions League spot. I do feel like this season, a combination of lack of support from the boards, especially in regards to, needing to sign the right players to get Lampard's style of football working. I think Lampard's always said that he's not really a possession style manager. He wants to, create overloads in the opposition. He wants to attack. That's his philosophy. And, to play that style of football, a lot of it does require long balls. It does require, playing balls off the ground and moving it quickly. And, when you have a squad, for me, at the time of Lampard, it felt like we had 2 different teams in the squads. Half the squads could play this short passing possession style game. And the other squad was the young players and new signings where Lampard was trying to, develop his own style, his own philosophy for us. But really complete that, he needed the board to help him and get 1 or 2 signings, maybe like that midfield player, Lampard, or Declan Rice. And, the forward, he wanted to really take that team to the next level. So, I don't know. I do feel like, would Frank feel like he could have done things differently? For sure. But I get the sense and vibe that maybe him and Morris knew for a while that, okay, maybe the board weren't really supporting them. And if you're not really being supported, you might as well just go for it if you're going to get sacked anyway in the future, regardless. So I don't know. I don't think it was all negatives. I think Frank left a really, positive legacy in that sense. So hopefully our club now will turn towards and have more confidence in using our own players from the academy now. I feel that they proved it because last season, they were the main reasons why we even got into the top 4. But at the same time, I don't know. It was natural that maybe Lampard's style of football wasn't going to work in the long term because whenever injuries happen to the players he likes, everything collapsed because then, guys like maybe Cover and George, they aren't no midfield players that are going to play balls off the ground and, move it quickly. That's not their style. That's not their DNA. So I think obviously Tuchel's coming in so far. He's been smart. He's realized, if I'm going to keep this job and survive in that sense, I need to incorporate everyone in the team, everyone in the squads. And I think he's done that by going towards a style that caters towards a lot of players that are ostracized in the Frank Lampards. I think maybe that's why we're playing so well. I think maybe that's why we're not seeing as many attacking players or new signings in the team as much. And, probably, in the context of this season, it was the right move to make. It felt like if we're going to do anything, next season was the season to really, push things forward, take things forward. I don't think we were there yet for this season. And I think with what Tuchel's doing right now, it's like the best of both worlds. And you can see that there is going to be progression going into next season too.
Can I just think, like, for me, obviously, you know my opinions on Lampard. It is obviously there's a little bit of history there with the whole Derby County thing and things that we said, and Leeds fans in general dislike him. And we have a rivalry with Chelsea anyway, so obviously it adds that extra spice to it.
Yeah.
And obviously it doesn't surprise me that you've had a new manager and it's 11 games now, I think, unbeaten. 11 games unbeaten, not hardly conceded any goals. It just shows, like, as a Leeds fan at first, it's mad because it's like a double-edged sword because I'm like, and I was happy that he'd gone. I'm not going to lie, which is bad, really, I guess, because should I be happy that someone's been sacked and lost their job? But it is what it is. It's football. And Tuchel's come in, and you can't even, for me, call it a new manager bounce now because it's 11 games. I mean, he's got his flying, and for me, it just shows how poor Lampard was as a manager, as a coach.
I don't know. I feel like that's quite harsh. Personally, I think, obviously now that Lampard's been sacked, people just remember the bad times. But, there was many positives this season. When we had a full-strength team with the players at his disposal, we were on our own unbeaten run during the season. We were limiting teams, creating chances against us from the counter-attack. We were creating many opportunities which players weren't, taking their chances, basically. And everything kind of collapsed, I feel, in 2 games. I think one game was that win against you guys at home for us. I felt like, obviously, in the papers and the press, it was all about how we outran Leeds. And obviously, in hindsight, you're thinking this is December. It's a very, congested periods. You want to have full strength, fully fit squads. And if you've got games coming every 3 days, it's going to be hard to maintain that type of quality. And, to outrun you guys when, you've lost against other teams where no one's needed to outrun you to get the result. It felt like not naivety, maybe a bit of naivety, to be honest. And I think, obviously...
Do you think... he himself felt like the Leeds United game was a game that he really wanted to win and really put all his eggs in that basket and said, I really want to beat these,
Yeah, I think you're 100% right, to be honest. I think that's what was reflected in how we were just, running like crazy in that sense. Yeah. And, in the long run, that kind of affected us. The minute injuries came to after Burnley, we lost Havertz, Kai, Pulisic instantly. And, Kante not being fully fit too. It was a big, the team was in a very dangerous situation at the time. And, it took a handful of games lost on the bounce for him to get sacked. Now, people could argue, well, other managers are struggling more. Klopp, Arteta, you can go on, and they still remained and kept their jobs. In hindsight, reflecting that with Lampard, was he much worse than them? Most likely not. But I feel this is where it comes down to politics behind the scenes already dictating that, okay, if he wasn't doing a perfect job, he was never the number one to begin with, to be honest. So, I don't know. I still feel like there were positives, introducing the youth, bringing in these guys, attacking philosophy, getting us a Champions League spot as well, because we wouldn't sign the players we did without any of that. And, there have been some great wins too, some great tactical performances. Lampard isn't like a terrible coach or bad manager, not at all. And I don't know. I think he's going to go on to have a pretty good career for himself, to be honest.
I've just got an agenda.
Hey, it's cool. It's cool. We're football fans. We're supposed to have agendas. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, that's just it. Obviously, since we last played Chelsea, a lot has changed. We've kind of already touched on Tuchel, but Lewis, I mean, what's been the main thing that Tuchel's changed? Because I know obviously the results, but I saw from that Atletico Madrid game when you won 1-0 away, I don't see you winning that game under Lampard or Sarri or any of kind of more recent Chelsea managers. It looked like a top tactical performance. That what is it that Tuchel's really changed there?
I feel the first part is just the setup. We're playing a much more pragmatic style of play, and I feel like for the most part it's because we feel like there's been a lot of damage done over the last 2 or 3 months, and now the club's main aim is really just to maintain top 4 football as a minimum for next season. So I feel like the way we're playing it, also to get the best out of some of the players that were outside the squad too under Lampard, and there's been quiet mumblings that some of the players that we've been playing have been playing for the most part also to try and regain some of their transfer valuation fees as well. That's why you've seen players like Marcos Alonso get reintegrated back into the squad for some games. And to be honest, I give fair play to Tuchel as well, because he's found the right games to use Alonso in too. And that's also been able to get the best out of him in some games as well. Like, we've had him make inverted runs into the box. We brought Werner out wide instead, and it's made him a bit more of an aerial threat. And we get the best out of the players, and we utilize them to their strengths instead of playing them to their disadvantages. And that's been the best for them. Like, even Kepa, we've seen, he's come into the team and he's got 2 clean sheets on the bounce. And his confidence already looks levels better than it had done over the last year and a half. But the first part is, I think we've kept it a bit more simple, in my opinion, because this is nowhere near what I think Tuchel has planned for Chelsea in the long term. I feel like we're going to go back to 4 at the back next season. I feel like even for a lot of players, like, their spots still aren't guaranteed for next season. The only player that I've seen get consistent favoritism, I'd say, is Callum Hudson-Odoi, and it's deserved as well because his form has been excellent. Even if people are going to take the Southampton game into account, where he's brought on and off in 20 minutes, that looked motivational to me, and it showed in the Atletico Madrid game afterwards because he started and he was brilliant in that game. So for the most part, I think it's just he's remotivated the squad. He's changed the style of play to something that's more simplistic and just allows us to churn out results and then defend our lead as well, which has also got the better out of the defenders that we have too and made them more confident. Like, Rudiger, Christensen have both been excellent under Thomas Tuchel. Half the reason why is because the confidence that he's instilled in them too. So the very least I'd say is that he's kept things simple for us for the most part, and he's allowed us to just push through and churn out points in winnable games. And that's given us the confidence for games like Liverpool, games like the Atletico Madrid game as well. And yeah, that's half the thing. That for me is mostly the defence.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, Nine, obviously, Lewis had alluded to it. Callum Hudson-Odoi was quite heavily criticised in that Southampton game. And to be fair, I'm not sure, from an outside looking in, that's an approach Lampard would have took necessarily just to single out an individual. I mean, what do you make to that kind of... Was that good man management, considering how he's performed since then? I mean, were you a fan of what Tuchel did there?
To be honest, I wasn't really a fan. I personally felt it was a bit unnecessary in that sense. I've seen worse performances from many players this season compared to what Callum did. And to be honest, his impact was pretty good when he came on. Yeah, maybe it wasn't like levels, but it wasn't poor. I don't think he played within himself. I don't think he was affecting the team. I don't know. Maybe it was a bit of Tuchel maybe getting a bit more worried than he had to be, because let's not forget that Callum played the pass to Mason that won the penalty, and we weren't getting balls in those areas until Callum came on. So I don't know, it felt like it was a bit unnecessary, a bit over the top, but I guess it was reflected because I don't know, maybe this is like a coaching thing. Maybe Tuchel thought this is like a unique way to just get at Callum to really maintain his focus, because, there has been slight critiques. Callum's a very young guy that sometimes his focus can't be, like fully 100% every single time. That's something you can work on when you're a young player. So, it's obvious so that Tuchel relies upon him and uses him because he's been one of the most consistent players in the team recently. So, in the long run, I don't think anyone's going to care as much. But like I'm saying, I thought it was a bit unnecessary, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, it's one of those that can go either way from there, can't it, really? It can go from good or bad, and sometimes it can kind of define a manager. But Joe, I mean, we kind of said off air, and you've just said it before, this is not going to be easy. This is going to be probably 10 times tougher than the first game. The first game was hardly easy for us either, was it, to be fair? But I've got that feeling if we can see first, I think we said this a couple of times in the last 2 weeks, that really is game over for us, because Chelsea, second fewest goals conceded in the league, superb defensive record under Tuchel. If we can see first, we're in big trouble on Saturday, aren't we?
Yeah, as is always the case, normally against Leeds United, to be fair. If you can get obviously we scored against the run of the play in the first fixture, but Chelsea was the first time for me this season. I know it's under a totally different manager, but I'd imagine Tuchel looks at that performance and adopts a similar sort of style in terms of pressing, trying to press us high. I'm not so sure. The guys might disagree. Obviously, they know more, but it was a way that, I'll go back to my original point. It was the first time that we were properly soundly beaten for me. It was the first time where it was like, wow, okay, this is what the step up is about. And obviously, since then, we've, dropped off a little bit anyway, and we're sound mid-table, obviously. But yeah, it's a game I'm really worried about. That's why I was talking about that double-edged sword, isn't it? You want Lampard to go, new coach comes in, you say, I'm proven right. And then when you play them, you're like, God, maybe they should have stuck with Lampard. You know what I mean? Because we said that before, it makes Chelsea good again. It makes Chelsea good again. Obviously, they're in the top. Go on, mate.
Never forget Harry Redknapp's interview after Lampard was sacked. Like the most like unbiased person you can ask about Frank Lampard. His uncle, get Harry Redknapp on Sky, and when he was saying, "What's Tuchel ever done? What's Tuchel ever achieved in his career with all this lot?" But it just shows you, doesn't it? It just shows you, these guys. It's the reason why sometimes you make these head over heart decisions.
I was listening to, obviously, All Stats Aren't We earlier on, which is a fantastic statistical podcast that looks at Leeds United, and they have opposition fans on and stuff. And the boys will tell us he's been playing with like 2 10s, right?
Yeah.
Behind the main striker. And I think we, as a club, obviously we adopt a man-marking style of play. And we've not actually, Oscar, come up against a team that's set up with that previously. Obviously, normally you might have Calvin who might look after Mount, for example. But if it's, say, Mount and Hudson-Odoi, who's going to pick them up? And I feel it's going to be a real challenge for this Leeds United team and Bielsa to come up against Tuchel. I'm excited to see how Tuchel takes it on and how Bielsa reacts to that as well. But I just look at the individuals within the squad and, it's a game. I'll always say it's one that I'm really not looking forward to, if I'm being totally honest, mate. I'm like, right, let's just move on. I've seen someone mention in the chat, let's just concentrate on Fulham, which is in a week's time.
That's a bit of an exaggeration. I mean, Chelsea are good, but this isn't like Pep Guardiola's Barcelona just yet. Let's just be honest. Let's just... But yeah, no, I mean, it's like a 3-4-2-1, is it, guys? Am I right in saying that the kind of
So
behind the striker?
Yeah, so basically, back three system, wing backs, hold the behind them really wide. We have our guys in the pivot in the midfield, very compact. They don't move. They stay in that position so they can just receive passes, recycle possession. And then obviously with how Tuchel uses the front three, he's tended to prefer more of a false nine up front, someone that is able to just starting positions alongside the opposition defense. But then when it comes to the attacks being created, they will revert back into midfield, basically in the number 10 area or even deeper. And then it's about having the guys out wide. Tuchel likes to have fast players alongside the false nine to make those runs in behind. So we've seen Hudson-Odoi, we've seen Werner as well. And, it feels like in terms of helping us, create opportunities against teams that like to sit deep, it has been helpful, that positional style play. At times, our attack can be a little bit rigid, but I think that's a bit natural and there's not too much time to really work on the attack as much. But, it is it is quite fluid. At the same, actually, can I say it's quite fluid, but at the same time, it's a little bit rigid at times in terms of chance creation. But, you can't expect everything immediately with a manager that hasn't had a pre-season that's coming halfway through a season. And especially during a period where you've got games coming every 3 days too. So, he's done an incredible job so far, Tuchel. You wouldn't expect anything less. And, it's exciting to see how this attack's going to develop now. We saw in the last game versus Everton, Havertz finally played a game false nine. A lot of us have been wanting to see this for months and months now, and it does feel like that is his very best position. And I think Kai can play false nine better than Mount. Mount plays it more like a support type of role, but then when Kai plays false nine, he gets on the end of these moves. He gets on the end of the attacks. He takes the shots on, and that was reflected in the Everton game when he had 5 touches inside the box, more than any other player on the field at the time. So it does feel like there's even more levels we can find with the attack. And I guess over time, we're going to find out how much better this attack can be.
It's interesting. It's interesting you mentioned Havertz because obviously Mount and Havertz started together kind of ahead of Kante, I think, in the last time we played.
Yeah.
And Chelsea didn't seem to really get into the rhythm until you brought on Kovacic with kind of half an hour to go. And then you battered us, to be honest, after that. We just could not get a kick after that. It was just pass after pass after pass after pass. We couldn't get anywhere near the ball, to be honest. And do you think that's been the case, Lewis, that Mount and Havertz have almost gotten each other's way so far this season? And part of Havertz's struggles has been how good Mount has been, or do you think it's a bit more to it than that?
Definitely a lot more to it. First off, the assimilation into the Premier League and having to adapt to the intensity of it. Then obviously getting the virus in December and then having to come back from it. Also with the players, with the free fall of form that we had as well. Then I think he came in and had another injury. He came in for the Wolves match under Thomas Tuchel, his first match, and then had another injury. And then we've had to slowly wean him back into the squad again. And now it looks like he's finally getting back into the rhythm of things. But I was already excited for Hazard in the second half of the season anyway, because his numbers have always looked better second half of the season. It's like he gets into seasons slowly, and that's something that we might just have to deal with Havertz in himself. But he's had a lot to deal with in this season, and he's 21 years old as well. So this season was already going to be just a get into the speed of things, just deal with the intensity of the league. Second season, we're going to see how good you really are in the Premier League. And we've already seen so many glimpses of what he has. And that's even before the Everton game as well. We were playing him the number 10 role around the September-October period. He was having a lot of great spells of form there. Initially starts off well in the 4-3-3 formation as well. We're having him in a lot of good results. He was performing well there too. It's just because he never really showed up in the goals or assist tally. People always just say, yeah, he's not really turned up or anything like that. But if you were watching him at the time, like, there's a quality player and he was always part of some great passages of play. But now he looks like he's finally getting into the speed of things. So, yeah, I'm excited to see Havertz over the next few weeks.
I'm not, after your description then, mate. I'm not looking forward to playing him at all.
Will he start at the weekend, do you think?
Should do. I mean, based on form as well, I see no reason why not. I think you lot will be a good test as well because you lot won't give him as much time on the ball. So it's going to be another test to see how he deals with a team of a different intensity. But I'm optimistic and I'm excited for it.
Okay. Another player I've noticed who seems to be playing okay, or certainly better than what he has been playing, is Jorginho. I mean, has he had a bit of a sudden upturn in form, or is it not really the case, Nai, in terms of, I mean, to be fair, Jorginho under Sarri, he got so much stick, and then obviously under Lampard didn't really improve at all, missed a couple of penalties. I mean, what's the thoughts on, will it probably be Jorginho and Kante in the middle on this one?
You probably assume that maybe Kante might play to bring more intensity in the midfield, like we saw against Atleti. Was it Atleti? I can't remember what game was it. United's that it was him and Cover playing in the field together. I think, but
I think it was Atletico.
Or Liverpool. Is that Atletico? I think, yeah.
Liverpool was Jorginho, Kante.
Yeah,
and Kante played
United, and then I think he then played versus Atleti.
Odegaard.
Yeah, but yeah, obviously Jorginho, this is what I mean. Obviously, now that Tuchel prefers more of like a short passing possession game, it then means that other players are able to shine again. And when you consider that, certain players like your Jorginhos, Covers, Alonso's, etc., they were brought under previous management where we were playing different systems. So under Sarri, that was very heavily possession, short passing, control, dictating. That's what the game was about. And then obviously under Conte, when we signed certain players for that too, like Alonso, etc., they suited playing in a back three setup. So, Tuchel's on the smart thing, trying to find a system that gets the best out of everyone at his disposal right now. And yeah, it's no surprise now why Jorginho is able to show what he can do. Is he like amazing in every department in his game? Of course not. But I do think like in modern day football, like how tactics are so like specialized now, it does mean that certain players don't have to be like a 10 at everything. They can be like a 10 in like a few things if that like suits the system, if you know what I mean. So, Jorginho is still Jorginho, but with how we play as a team now, keeping possession, keeping the ball, trying to force opponents onto us to create them spaces between the lines for ourselves, he's become more effective, basically.
Okay, interesting. I mean, one player that really stood out for me in terms of absolutely having nightmares trying to see us try and stop him was Christian Pulisic last time we played. I mean, we could not get near him. I don't know if you remember, Joe, we were on the live watch along and thinking, just take him out. We couldn't even take him out because we couldn't get close enough to take him out. But he seems to have really dropped off, though, since that game. Is that fair to say, Lewis?
Yes, but also not really his fault. Like, Christian Pulisic always comes with these muscular injuries, and now they're becoming more and more frequent. So that's obviously been a huge factor of it. Also, I thought Frank Lampard massively overplayed him over the Christmas period. I've been screaming for the entire season. I don't really want to see Pulisic get that much game time, and the main reason for that is because he doesn't really seem that confident in himself either. It's like I feel like I've heard as well that the club have earmarked that a big reason for why he has all these muscular injuries is how explosive his play style is, and they want to try and ease him into a different style of play that could potentially see him play more games without suffering another injury in the middle of all of that. And with that and all the muscular injuries as well, it's another case that there's a lot of frequent factors as to why he's not starting. But same way, I don't really want to see him start that much either. I'd rather just, at the very least, stop him getting all of these injuries and then use him sparingly and then see if we can get a decent run of games out of him. Because if we keep playing him regularly and he keeps getting injured, not only is he going to lose his ability sooner or later, he's also going to lose marketability, and we also aren't going to be able to sell him off if he don't become part of our plans. So for Pulisic, for me, it's more the injuries, and it's also the confidence with Tuchel, and it's also the fact that we're playing a formation that only has 3 attacking positions.
Yeah.
So you look at our bench, and there's always going to be a Pulisic, but there's going to be a Ziyech next to him, or there might be a Hudson-Odoi, there might be a Timo Werner, Giroud next to him. We've got Thiago Silva, who can barely even make it into our defence right now. You've just got a packed squad as well. So with that in mind, we don't even necessarily have to force him into the squad like that, which is why I would rather use him sparingly either. So it's not really like he's fallen off. It's just he's not really in form right now. It's also a confidence thing too with all the injuries. It's another thing. It's like Havertz. Bunch of different factors which are holding him back.
Yeah, if I can even add to that, obviously Tuchel came out after the Everton game. Very illuminating comments by Tuchel, obviously suggesting that, he feels a bit guilty with how he's been using Pulisic, and maybe if he's been honest with himself, maybe considering that he used Pulisic at Dortmund and he used him in a role where he was more of an impact style player. Maybe he still sees him in that same light, with Tuchel saying that, I feel like he's more effective in the final 20, 30 minutes. And, considering our short possession style game, Pulisic for me just doesn't really suit that style as much. I think that's why he lost his place at Dortmund when Sancho came and is able to do that. And this is why he's not playing as much now with Hudson-Odoi playing over him in this team as well. So, Pulisic's very exciting. He's got some amazing qualities. His first touch, his 1v1 ability. But I think at times he can be a bit too one-dimensional. He can play with his head down a bit too much. He doesn't necessarily link up as well with his teammates as he should. He can be a bit too individualistic. And it's just not going to really cut it with Tuchel and this football he wants. So it'll be interesting to see how Pulisic is going to react to this. I think reports coming out suggesting that he could even be on the move if he's not happy with the game time. Who knows? We'll find out. But again, we haven't really missed him as much in that sense due to so many other players stepping up.
Fair enough. I mean, Joe, wish we had the luxury of putting Christian Pulisic on the bench.
Yeah,
it's not bad for some. I mean, we can't even fill a bench sometimes. We put academy players on the bench who sometimes we've not even heard of the academy players. They're the bench players from the academy sometimes. So it'll be interesting when we compare the benches when we're on the day. It will be absolutely eye-watering, to be fair, in terms of comparing the benches from both teams. I reckon, it is pretty crazy. I reckon Christian Pulisic on his own will probably be worth our whole bench put together, to be fair. And I think we can pretty confidently say that, to be honest. But one thing I was going to say, Joe, is there's a lot of Chelsea players in this team who we already know a lot about from the Championship. Reece James, Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount, all kind of played in the Championship around the time we were getting promoted. I mean, any thoughts on them? Possibly having a bit of an impact. We've had Reece James. I just remember Reece James's game when Wigan beat us at Ellen Road. How good he was that day. I mean, I just remember Jack Harrison trying to get past him, and it was like just a losing battle, really.
I mean, I think we tried it. I think I remember rightly. We tried it in the first game. Are you on about this one as well prior to the Wigan one? No, it was this game as well. I remember him trying to get it round Reece James, and he just stood like. Yeah, nice try kind of vibe. I don't know what's going on with Tammy, because obviously is he fit, isn't he, or is Tuchel not just sold on him? I'm like, listen, I'd take Tammy Abraham in a heartbeat if they're not going to play him, because obviously I don't know. Maybe the boys can allude to it, but I don't know what's going on with Tammy at Chelsea at the minute. But yeah, I mean, Mason Mount's great, isn't he? You know, I thought he was overrated, if I'm being totally honest. The spirit at Derby and him getting straight into the Chelsea side, and I was a bit like, I'm not so sure. But he has been fantastic, to be fair to him, man. He's a great footballer, and someone, you know, I'm buzzing's in the England setup. You know, we've got a plethora of riches at the minute, you know, at England, you know, going forward in that respect. So something to look forward to. But yeah, the Championship players, yeah. What is going on with Tammy at the minute? Is he not fit, or is he just not one of Tuchel's guys? What's the story?
I mean, I'll say it quickly. I think he's not really one of Tuchel's guys at this point in time. I think that's why he's been experimenting with can I say experimenting? That's why he's been preferring to use like a false nine system, to be honest. And after seeing how Kai led the line versus Everton, is this like a sign of things to come?
I'd take him in the summer all day, to be fair, 100%.
Yeah, he's a great player. Yeah.
We have them.
Yeah, Tammy is a great player. I think he's very underrated. Obviously, I understand why he gets some criticism from the fan base, but I've always been a lot more lenient, considering that, you know, Tammy's whole game for most of his career has been like that fox in the box striker. You know, he's not really involved in the link up or the build up or nothing like that. And obviously, when Lampard introduced him to the team, he was our leading goal scorer, and which I think he still is even now when he's not playing. Tammy's had to adapt his entire game to become like a more complete forward. Like I know you guys play FM, you know what complete forward role is, you know what I mean, and that's Tammy Abraham. You know, stretching the play, dropping deep to link up the play, just developing his all-round game. And I think when you're developing your game, that's going to come with its ups and downs. But you know, considering that he knows how to score and he's able to do all those bits, as he gets older, he's only going to get even better, more efficient. And I don't know, I feel a bit sorry for him because, again, he's always been very underrated. But that's football for you sometimes, you know?
Oh, do you want me to add to that as well?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say with Tammy, like, I think Nini's also here on the head for most of it. I'm not sure if he fits our system or if right now he even is the quality of striker that Chelsea need. And I've always thought with Tammy, like, he'd grow in a slower rate to how a Mason Mount would grow, how a Reece James would grow. Also in terms of what we'd want to see from them up front. And Tammy's overall game just isn't up there enough. And I do feel with Tammy, like, for his sake, he could probably do with another loan spell. And it's nothing against him. I do still think he's going straight to the top. I just think he needs regular game time at a Premier League club to continue developing, because I just don't think he'll get that game time at Chelsea, or you won't be able to compete with a Werner. We're right now trying to look at Erling Haaland for the summer. And if we have a Haaland and a Werner, like, he's going to be third in the pecking order. And we're not even sure if Giroud's going to be staying or not come the summer. So I feel like what's best for his development, take a loan to a Premier League club. It will probably get the best out of him. And even if he still isn't up to standard by that point, you probably get a higher valuation fee for him than you would right now. But it's not me to say sell him either, because I still think he's a quality player. And I still think there's a player with a long-term aim of playing for Chelsea for us in the long term. And I think he's already said, same thing with Loftus-Cheek, that they both just want to succeed at Chelsea. And I think if that's your mindset, we can be more patient with it. Even if he wants it now, like, you can still just be the manager and tell him, like, he isn't good enough right now and send him out on loan. But if his main aim is to play for Chelsea, I can be more patient with him. Same way with a Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who's been playing really well for Fulham over recent weeks, but I still don't think is going to be Chelsea quality when he comes back in the summer. I think he's going to need another. I think next season he's going to need another loan deal as well, because Callum Hudson-Odoi had that partial Achilles tear, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek had the full Achilles tear. So I feel like he's still going to need a lot more longer time than even right now is. Like, I think a second loan deal would be the best for him, and then he can come back, and then I think he's going to be really ready and fully healed from that problem as well, because it's all mental as well.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think with the whole like Fulham loan, basically, it was just about him just finding that ability to get fit, get consistent game time, match fitness, because he hasn't played football in like nearly 18 months due to that ridiculous injury and ridiculous circumstances, which is like I mean, yeah, to this day, I'll just get angry thinking about it because it doesn't make any sense that one of the best players at the time. Yeah. I mean, the club just literally no care behind the club at all. It was, before Europa League final, absolutely ridiculous. But, you know, for me, it's all about him just getting that fitness and showing that he can, you know, run for 90 minutes, which he hasn't been able to do. And he's doing that now for Fulham. I'm going to use an example here about, you know, how if you play with better quality, you can actually see there's more levels for a player. And that player is probably Patrick Bamford. Now, for a while, he's always been seen as someone that wasn't as good. But I definitely feel now that Leeds have better players in attack too, who are able to maybe find his runs more and stuff like that. He's able to demonstrate more to his game, which he's always had. And we saw that potential when he won the Championship Player of the Season awards back when he was like a teen or something. So you can't do that by accident. And you look at the quality of his finishes, his play. I've always thought Bamford is like he reminds me of like a bit of like an Italian type of striker, a bit European with how his game's always been. And, you know, you look at how his career's been, like, you know, going to Crystal Palace, one of the stupidest deals ever, you know, a Palace team that, I mean, we saw the stats of Benteke. I mean, Benteke every season's winning like most headers in the game because all they do is pump long balls to their striker. And, you know, how is Bamford going to work in a Palace team where they, you know what I mean? And I think with Ruben, yeah, there's only so much you can show at Fulham, but playing with other players around you who are able to like find your runs better, you know, find you quickly in positions you want to be found. I feel like that can obviously, you know, you can see the levels back in his game. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But, you know, I feel with him and Tammy, I do think it's important to have players who have that mentality of wanting to fight for the club. I think in football games, a lot of times, you know, you're not going to win most of your games during a season playing beautiful football. You know what I mean? It's just impossible. A lot of times it comes down to needing that mental resolve. You know, who's tougher mentally, who's able to fight more, who's able to, you know, stand up more when it's needed and take responsibility. And I feel like players that have that connection, you know, they're always great to have for the squads in years to come. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think they've shown over the years that they have the quality for us. I mean, Tammy's still being the leading scorer last season. You can't be a leading scorer by accident. We've signed players for like hundreds, you know, 50 million, 60 million who got nowhere near close to what Tammy was doing. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like we've got to keep these guys, man.
I still think they can succeed for us. I just feel like with Tammy, it's about and Ruben as well. It's about opportunities, and I don't think they're going to get the same level of opportunities here at Chelsea as if they would on loan at another club and then coming back to us. That's my only thing. But I do agree with you where there's still quality players for us, and I wouldn't want to sell either of them right now either.
Do you know?
Yeah.
For me though, right? I know you. I don't think the Haaland deal happens personally, and I hope it doesn't. He was born in Leeds. You know, his dad played for Leeds. He's a Leeds fan. He's a self-confessed Leeds fan. He went and got Stuart Dallas's shirt against Northern Ireland and said to him, like, marching on together, etc., you know?
Yeah.
So I hope that deal doesn't happen, but I don't think it will anyway. But, you know, Lewis, you've mentioned there, if that, let's say it happens hypothetically, Haaland comes in, you've then got Werner. I mean, Haaland's still young. When's Tammy ever going to get a chance? So surely he would have to move on. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to want to play third fiddle to them two, is he? I mean, you've got no chance to get in.
You're not getting ahead of Haaland, are you?
Not ever.
You'd have to be really deluded to think that you ever get into that, to like, maybe, but, you know, no time soon, is it? It'd have to take Haaland getting an injury or massive suspension or something.
Which happens in football, you know, and I feel like if I was to have a backup, I'd have Tammy over Werner. I think, obviously, you know, disregarding the transfer fee, Tammy hasn't missed anywhere near close to the opportunities that Werner's missed this season. Nowhere near close to them. I mean, there's been some really, really terrible misses from, you know, open play, from right by the goal line, from positions where he should be scoring and he hasn't.
Yeah.
And if that was Tammy doing even half of that, it would be a completely different story. So, you know, even before we signed Werner, I know that he's a finisher. I've always seen him as like more of a system striker. And I saw the plan Lampard had for him, but the reality was that he was never the most complete technical player, not at all. I mean, he's always been more reliant on his physicality, like his pace and his running and like his intelligent movement and stuff. So I guess in that sense, he's disappointed me with his finishing, because I think he's had a ton of opportunities to really get those goals this season, and mentally he's just been suffering with confidence in front of goal.
He missed the sitter against us as well from yards out.
Oh,
yeah.
He's missed that same sitter all season.
Yeah.
It's a bit like what Bamford was last season to an extent, in terms of he does most of what he does is right, and in terms of the team always looks weaker without him in it. I don't know if you'd agree with that, Joe. I mean, from what I've seen at Chelsea, they always look better with him in it, but again, in terms of XG, which will probably
finish. That's the thing with it.
That's it.
That's why I can back him over a Morata. And I see people compare Werner to Morata. I'm like, seriously, what are you talking about? Like, there's a massive difference between the pair of them. But the only thing that is consistent is big chances. Like, Werner has missed a string of big chances. I think a lot of it is due to confidence, but a lot of it is also due to he is that sort of striker. He needs a good amount of chance where he puts them in the back of the net. And that's where he needs to improve, because we're in the Premier League and you just don't get that number of chances, especially at Chelsea. Like, we make chances, but I also think to an extent, and this is why I would support Werner, there's been a lot of cases where I've seen him make runs that just constantly get ignored, especially in the first half of the season. So that comes into factor with it as well. That confidence, and the only thing against Werner is there are times he should be more clinical. Like, even at that Everton game, I looked at 2 or 3 and I was like, seriously, man, like, you just put that straight at Pickford, really? But it's Timo Werner. I need to see him more confident, because I've seen him at the start of the season. Even when we played him at left wing, it was a different player. It was a lot more confident. His first touch was better. Even in games we were losing, he was our best attacker, clearly by a mile.
And it's obvious it sounds, Lewis,
same for him.
Would he benefit from having fans in the ground? As daft as it sounds, do you think he'd feed off that kind of energy kind of thing? I mean, in the Bundesliga,
with our fan base,
incredible week in, week out.
I was thinking,
with our fan base.
I was thinking,
there's that as well.
Lampard got sacked, thank God fans won at the Wolves game. Half the team would be getting booed. If you thought the Sunderland game after Jose was bad, I can only imagine.
Okay.
Do you know what? How much was it you paid for Werner in the end?
It's like
48.
48, 52, something like that.
Yeah. No, I just want to. The only reason I mention it is because Bamford gets a lot of unfair stick, and we were discussing it because he missed a few chances against West Ham last time out. He should have scored them, but and this is why I try to say to fans that watch the show and stuff that hammer him. You got Timo Werner, then a team that have spent all this money, that are chasing top 4, and even he's not doing it. We paid 10 million for Bamford in the Championship. If we wanted someone, and I keep trying to say it, that was clinical all the time, you're looking to play upwards, 50, 60, 70, 80 million. Well, we ain't got that sort of cash, look at Haaland, for example, or Kane. These are the sort of guys that are clinical. Lewandowski, but they're going to cost big bucks, and we paid 10 million for Bamford, man, and he's doing all right. He's scored quite a few goals, a lot more than a lot of us would have expected. So you've got to take the rough with the smooth with Paddy. Sometimes you will miss them, but he's a 1 in 3 kind of guy. Hopefully, he'll score again on the weekend, because he did last time out, didn't he, against Chelsea, against the run of play. So, be interesting. It's just whether or not we can hold on, Oscar.
That's it. That's exactly that, really. But let's talk a little bit more about Leeds. But one thing I did notice Lewis mentioned in terms of the left-back situation, or left wing-back, in terms of playing Marcus Alonso there. Now, I might be totally out of line here, or totally wrong in my analysis of Marcus Alonso, but I don't think he's the strongest defender. I don't know if that's fair to say. I don't think he's as strong defensively as Ben Chilwell, who, let's be honest...
You said that lightly.
Is that fair to say?
I think that's very, very fair to say.
Ben Chilwell had Rafinha. Let's be honest, I've not seen probably any left back cope as well with Rafinha or Harrison all season, to be fair. I think Rafinha didn't really have a kick in the game. I mean, for me, I'm looking at that show and thinking that's one of the... If we're going to get anything out of this game, Rafinha's got to absolutely be getting at Marcus Alonso at every opportunity, every single time he can get at him. He's got to try and go there, hasn't he?
Yeah, 100%. I think Nine touched on it earlier on about it being down to the system, and Alonso struggles in a back 4, but when playing at a wing back going forward, etc., he's really good. But I hope for me, if we can, get it into Rodrigo. If Rodrigo starts, I did prior to his injury, when we beat Everton, etc. It looked like they had a certain bit of how am I saying it? Telepathy.
Yeah,
that's the word.
Yeah.
Like it would go into Rodrigo, he would be on the half turn, and bam, Rafinha would be in. And if Alonso is going to play high, then there is the opportunity for that, to get.
Rodrigo didn't play last time, by the way. If you remember, Rodrigo didn't play that game.
No, that's what I'm saying. And obviously, he played last time out, so hopefully he's going to be back. We have KP back as well, but I do think Rafinha in the last two, if we're being honest, hasn't had great games. But I think a lot of that as well is due to the fact that the players around him haven't been playing great, and there seems to be an over-reliance on Rafinha at the minute. We've seen that we've got this player that's levels above what we have already, and there seems to be a bit of an over-reliance of players just saying, just give it Rafinha and it'll happen, give it Rafinha and it'll happen. And we've never been like that under Bielsa, and I don't really like it. Obviously, I love Rafinha, he's doing bits, but I want everyone to be contributing, not just going, just give it Rafinha and he'll make something happen. I don't know if you've felt that, Oscar.
Yeah.
That way.
Yeah, a little bit. I think we're still creating. That's the main thing. I still think we're creating. Maybe a little bit reliant on Rafinha, but I think when Rodrigo comes back, I think naturally he's another presence who's going to get into the box, try and score goals. Bamford's levels dropped a little bit last couple of weeks, a little bit, nothing too major, but in terms of just general all-round plays, a couple of times when you look at him thinking where he can lay off Rafinha into a really good position out wide, or Harrison's probably the biggest one, to be fair, because all our creativity out wide is going to go down Rafinha's side at the minute because Harrison's not doing it. Costa's not really convincing. Okay, he's done okay in a couple of games, but he's not long-term been convincing on either wing. So it's got to kind of come down Rafinha's side. And even Luke Aylin's levels dropped recently.
Yeah,
so I think it all plays a factor. I think in general, we've had some really difficult games. We've not been on a great run of form ourselves. Let's not forget. We've not had some easy games at all. But, I mean, one other player I was going to mention is, is Jack Harrison, to be fair. It's Jack Harrison, because last time we saw Jack Harrison come up against Reece James, or whoever it is going to be at right wing back, Reece James lost him time after time after time on that side of the pitch. And I think the first goal actually came from Reece James just completely evading Harrison and Malioski and getting balls into the box. And it could well be the same left-back pairing playing again. I mean, what's likely to be your right wing back on Saturday? Will it be Hudson-Odoi or will it be James, do you reckon, Lewis? Or someone else, possibly?
I feel Reece James, only because I think you lot are going to be really attacking in this game. You lot are going to give us a proper match. And I don't think Hudson-Odoi is more preferred against those sorts of teams. We use him more against the defensive teams, because if you're going to use a bag of 8 or something, we might as well have Hudson-Odoi come in as a second winger, and he also can track back good enough that you can work in a wing back role. But I'd rather us be a bit more defensively solid in this sort of game. So I'd rather us go for a Reece James. There's nothing against Hudson-Odoi's quality. To be honest, we could use him as the front three potentially, but nah, I'd rather us go for Reece James. It would just keep us more defensively solid. And on the left-hand side, I'd say the same thing with Chilwell. I think Alonso, you lot would bully him in that sort of game, and I don't want to see him playing. That's the game for Chilwell for me.
So how will you set up, guys? Sorry, Oscar, just to jump in, because I'm just interested, because obviously who's going to play in them 2 10s, as it were, and who's going to play up top? Because I think if Werner's employed anywhere, I think his pace will worry the shit at me when it comes to Llorente and Cooper being at centre back, and I just wanted to get, I guess, now what would be your lineup, do you think, like across the pitch?
I think most likely will be a back 3 again. Probably assume that it'd be maybe Rudiger. Maybe could be a surprise inclusion of Thiago Silva. I feel like he's back now. Him getting some game time could be useful. Has to be looked better too. Could mention that he's his captain. Mendy in goal. Wing backs. I mean, it's interesting. I think obviously, like when teams try and attack us down the wide areas now, because we have the wide centre back behind the wing backs, it's like we have 2 defenders in those areas, and I think that's why most teams aren't having too much fun against us now. But then at the same time, I do feel like against Leeds, you're the type of team where you guys attack, but then there's moments in the game where the distances, you're not as compact as you should be. And that's when you can get picked off maybe in the field or in the counter and stuff like that. And I feel like maybe pace would be useful to have. So I don't know, probably see Ben, Reece James again, probably see maybe like Cover and George in midfield, maybe Cover and Kante, or maybe George and Kante, even knows. And I think up front, after seeing how we performed against Everton, it would feel like we'd have to maybe like continue with that. So I'd probably go for Hudson, Havertz, and Werner again.
Yeah, Oscar, like, it'll be interesting to see how we adopt the man marking system as well. You know, I was listening, as I said to you earlier, I was listening, and they were making a point of will the fullbacks be chosen in a sense to mark, you know, the 2 10s, and then will our wingers look after their wing backs kind of thing. So it'd be interesting how it all pans out. It could be very, very narrow from a Leeds perspective when in the defensive areas. It'll be interesting to see. I'm really, interested to see how the game's going to unfold. But
there's that. I mean, as well. A back three against Bamford's almost 3 against 1 as well in that kind of sense. Trying to press. It's going to be a tough battle because they just go side to side, and just completely take him out of the game. And then Rodrigo, who probably will press alongside him. So I think it's going to be really interesting. That I think obviously if you have the fullbacks following sort of Hudson-Odoi, Werner infield, again you've got to make sure that Rafinha's doing his defensive work. Yeah. That's probably why I think Harrison might come back in. I don't think Costa suits that as well. Following, you imagine Costa trying to follow Alonso or Chilwell for 90 minutes. It's not going to happen.
It's not happening, is it?
It's even Rodrigo, in terms of his defensive work's being questioned, and rightly so in terms of his pressing. So it's going to be interesting in that sense. I see goals, to be honest, in this. I do think it's going to be quite an open one.
I do think we will score. I do think we will score. But maybe just Chelsea's quality might tell in the end. Unfortunately,
Chelsea might score several more. Is what we're,
if you guys score against us, you're doing something very rare because not many teams have been scoring or even having shots on goal against us. Mendy's been a very quiet keeper since Tuchel's come over. So I don't know. I feel like with Tuchel, basically, he's all about obviously nullifying an opposition's like main threat, at the same time exploiting their weaknesses. And I think that's why a lot of teams haven't been finding like too much fun on the counter-attack. Of course, big games versus like Atleti, Liverpool, they had a few ones, and United, they're like the main big teams who are great playing in the transition, and they haven't been able to do much against us. So, it does feel like the team are well prepared to like limit an opposition in that sense. But for me, it's more about how we translate that into creating opportunities and scoring. I feel like that is still the thing, but we can keep large possession, we can keep the ball for fun, you know what I mean? But can we then take that chance when it comes? Are we going to score in the right moment? Can we create quality opportunities more consistently? I feel like that's where it's going to take more time.
It'd be so good though, right? Beating Atletico, beating Liverpool on this great run, for Leeds to just beat. That would be the one.
I mean, I remember, like last time I went to Ellen Road, I was a kid, and it was like 2002. That was when James Milner made his debut for you guys, and that's when he scored against us in that 2-0 win to you guys, and that was literally one of the worst ever away games I've ever been to. It's like one of the worst ever like footballing memories of all time. It was like such a disaster getting there, a terrible day. And then just like getting absolutely outplayed too. And then James, 16-year-old Milner, then I think making it 2-0 at the time as well was, absolutely crazy. So since that day, I've always been like, okay, we need to get this win versus Leeds. You know what I mean? So it's a bit more personal for me.
Yeah. I mean, we still sing like at Ellen Road about Chelsea fans, I can't really say it out here, but
I know
we still sing about Chelsea fans. It's mad, obviously. It dates back to the 70s and the FA Cup and that, but mad. One game that I want to win. I remember, I think it was Gus Poyet speaking about the big games for him, and it was always a big game for them. Back then, Dennis Wise, etc. It was always a big game, Leeds United, man. So. Hopefully it'll be another good test, but it's one that you want the fans in for, isn't it? That's the thing. You want the fans in this one big time.
I think that's been the most frustrating thing with obviously the lockdown. Fans not being in the stadium. It feels like some of these games, not like the intensity that doesn't feel the same. You know what I mean? Like when the fans are behind you and like getting at the players, and then there's like more of that feeling in the game. It just makes it just makes the game different, you know. So
did any of you guys get in because Chelsea, when we played them, had some fans in? I think it was the first time you'd had fans in it. Only a couple of thou, wasn't it? Did any of you get to go to that one? Or
Nah, not able to in the end. Like, I had to actually give up my season ticket, you know, obviously doing this and then like making videos after. Like, I lived too far away, it just wasn't practical. I was like a season ticket holder for like 16, 17 years, something like that. So you know, it's one of the hardest things I've had to do, to be honest. And I still feel to say that I make the right decision. I still don't know. But, yeah.
You timed it well, though, in terms of what's happening now anyway. It's probably softened the blow somewhat.
I don't know. Like, one regret is that I wasn't able to see the team play under Frank. That's like my big regret. Like, I had to give it up right after Sarri obviously left that season, and then, you know what I mean? But yeah, there's too many bad memories now, you guys. Let's like move this conversation forward. You know what I mean?
Were you that annoyed that Hazard left the club that you decided you were handing in the season ticket?
Oh, no. It was literally just for this YouTube stuff. I mean, it's hard to, you know, like make videos and then like go to the game. And if you don't have like, you know, teams behind you and like, you know, all that type of stuff, it doesn't really work. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, let's get some predictions from you. I'll go to the Chelsea fans first. We're going to try and I'll work our way up, try and get positive to finish off with in terms of Leeds. But Lewis, what's your prediction for this one? Leeds versus Chelsea, Saturday afternoon. What you saying, mate?
If we keep a clean sheet in this game, it'll be another big test. But I'm going to be confident. I'm going to go 2-0 Chelsea.
Okay. A 9-9?
I mean, I feel like 2-0 to us. I felt like being nice and giving you guys a goal, but you know, if teams like Liverpool and etc. can't get goals against us, then I'm just thinking, what hope do Leeds have? You know?
Oh wow, that's
wow. I was a bit uncalled for, wasn't it?
Come on, it's a historic rivalry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still remembering. I've got all the flashbacks now from 2002. So.
Well, we had to have Ken Bates from you. We had Ken Bates and Dennis Wise, you know, in terms of we had like a Chelsea Cus Poyet, just a Chelsea contingent at the club. Yeah. Dark times for us. Dark times.
We even had, I remember, obviously, the Championship first team. We had Lewis Baker, Izzy Brown, Paddy Bamford. You know, all these. I know we've still got Bamford, but I remember my friend who's a Chelsea fan was like, "Man, you just like Chelsea rejects and that." So that would do my head in at the time as well.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, I don't even know where they are. Where is Lewis Baker? I don't know where he is.
He's in Turkey. He's in Turkey right now.
So is he? Yeah.
Trabzonspor. So they won like a trophy. I think was it this season?
Is he still on Chelsea's books or?
Yeah, it's still on the books now. It's with us. Yeah, you know, these guys will get loaned out till they die. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just how it works.
It's so sad because I remember Bielsa saying he was using him sparingly, and he said to him, "I want you to stay. You will get more game time. Just stick with me." And he was like, "Nah." And he went to Reading, and then look where they are now. I think a lot of it is that they're on quite big contracts, aren't they? For the is it like 30 odd grand, maybe some of them?
Some of these guys are on big contracts, like Thomas Kalash. You know him. He was on like a pretty good contract for a while, and you know, you get in the position where you're kind of like, well, you know, I'm still playing at like a good level for big clubs in the Championship. You know, I'm on like great money too. You know, why am I going to say no to this? So
I'm not going to go to a team in the Championship that's going to pay me a fraction of what I'm getting now. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I think at the same time, we're not perfect. Like, they're a club too that will, you know, players, if they're settled, they'll get moved on because we decided that they should be loaned out again somewhere. You know what I mean? So it's not all like on the players sometimes, but to be honest, I'm happy with the new rule. Me personally, I don't think it's like morally right where you're just like not allowing young players to really fulfill their potential when you're just kind of treating them like, you know, stats and like things on a spreadsheet, and it's all about profit and the money you're making from them. I don't think football should really go down there. Like, it's not a business, you know what I mean? Football is a sport. It's about competition. It's about history, all that type of stuff. So that's how I see it. Yeah.
Okay. Wayman, I'm going to push you for prediction.
Oh, yeah. Obviously, I completely forgot. Yeah.
You're going 2-0, mate?
Yeah.
I think... Listen, I'm always going to back us, you know this. I'll always back us. I do fancy us to score as well. I do. I know the lads have said nil, and I understand it, and they're in a great run of form, but we will create. And look, I've seen that as well. I think Chelsea have still got KDB out
and
on
Salah and Lukaku.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Would I take a point? Not at home. I've got backers, mate, but I just don't. As you can tell,
I'd take a point.
I'm not saying it with my chest, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. 1-1. Oh.
That's saying to me that you think we're going to lose the game because you never.
Yeah.
That's the first time all season. I mean, you've backed us against City, you've backed us against everyone. Yeah. First time you said the draw, so I'm thinking Wayman secretly thinks we're going to lose the game. But I'm going to back that. I'm going to go 1-1 as well. I'm going to go. The only hope is Chelsea haven't scored a lot of goals under Tuchel. They've been superb defensively, but haven't scored a lot of goals. I've got the feeling that if Thiago Silva plays, he's going to score from a set piece. That's. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go 2-2. I'm going to go 2-2. I mean, it might be a little bit more open than what we're expecting. I'm thinking Thiago Silva plays. I'm just waiting for the set piece to come in and us try and get near him as he just towers above us all. But that's a fear. Obviously, Chelsea scored last time for a set piece against us. So I'm going to go 2-2. I think it'll be a really good game either way, to be fair. And I'd take a point all day long because for me, obviously, I still think you can finish second obviously City are going to win the title, but I still think you've got a massive chance of finishing second. Only 4 points off a certain team over the Pennines, and you know what? The form you're on, you must be fancying second place, Lewis.
Depends on if we can maintain it, but I've got no reason not to think so right now. So everything's up for grabs for me, except first place, of course. But if we can keep this run going, like after the international break, we have a very good run of games up until our last 4 games of the season. And even then, it all depends on circumstance. If City have the title wrapped up by then, that game could be a lot closer than we give it contention for. Arsenal, if they're deep into the Europa League run, they might have to give the Chelsea game a miss as well. So we should be optimistic about this, really optimistic. So second place, and maybe. I want top 3 personally, but top 4 is going to happen anyway. I just want to see how we can set up for next season.
Okay. Do you think you can push for? I personally think Chelsea can push potentially or be the closest challengers to City next season in terms of the momentum you've got. If you do get these more big signings, I mean, do you feel that way in terms of Chelsea can really push the likes of City, possibly Liverpool if they're back with Van Dijk in the team? Do you think that's the case that under Tuchel you can win a Premier League title?
Definitely. This team I already thought was capable of it. It was all depending on if we could get a free-flowing system, and obviously we had our struggles with that. Now, under Thomas Tuchel, like, the hopes re-energized again, so I've got no reason to see why we can't go for title contenders.
Okay. Do you agree with that, 9-9?
Yeah, I think we do. I think personally we need to maybe get a few more acquisitions in the summer if we really want to be like title contenders. I mean, it's more like interesting, like food for thought, in my opinion. I mean, let's say hypothetically, we sign Haaland, he comes. There are question marks, and not in regards to his ability, but okay, are we going to be able to create the opportunities for him to score? Because how Dortmund play and how we play is, 2 different things. And obviously, when you're signing all the the top young talent under 23 years old, can we expect a team full of 22-year-olds, 21-year-olds, 23-year-olds to win the league straight away? I'm not too sure. I still think that these guys need more time to acclimatize to the Premier League and just develop naturally too. So depending on who we sign, if we sign a bit more experience, then yeah, we've got a massive opportunity. But if we want to sign great talent from Liga and from the Bundesliga, I think we'll get closer. Maybe winning a trophy for me would be the best thing. But you look at things right now, you do feel like we are maybe the best one coped so far to be able to possibly challenge alongside Man City. So
1-1.
Yeah, to win though, you need to score. I think the reason why Man City are where they are is because they know how to put the ball in the back of the net. That's one of the hardest things to do in football. So, until I see that we can really, really do that, then I'll feel super confident that we can win the league. But yeah, I feel that we can be up there.
Okay, fair enough. But I guess we'll leave it there anyway. As long as you finish above Man United and stop their momentum, etc. If you stop just that talk, it's fine by me. To be fair, it's fine. I reluctantly say that because, to be fair, It's probably the lesser of two evils, to be fair, and that's probably fair to say. If it has to be someone pushing City for the title, I prefer it to be you guys than the guys over the Pennines. So let's finish it there anyway. Where can we find you guys? Where can we find you, Lewis? Let us know.
Yeah, Carefree Lewis, you're on YouTube and on Twitter, and check out Blues Fans TV as well. Thanks for having me on, guys.
No problem at all, mate. It's been absolute pleasure.
Chelsea fans are hard to track down. Like I was in about, I reckon in total we contacted about 8 different Chelsea fans, and it's like, honestly, man, it's madness. So we managed to actually lock them down.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, I know the struggle. Like, obviously, like trying to do like collabs. It's just never as smooth sailing as you're hoping it's going to be. But obviously, yeah, we came on. Glad to come on. Hopefully, do more of these in the future as well. As long as you guys stay up in the Premier League, of course. You know what I mean? But
European, we're pushing for that European Conference, mate. European Conference. We're pushing Liverpool for that.
Yeah, I love the energy, man. But yeah, obviously, if you guys want to find me, Blue Lions TV, find me on YouTube, NiiNiiFC on Twitter as well. You'll find me there. And yeah, thanks for having me on, you guys.
Pleasure, man.
No problem at all. And just before we sign off, we have, of course, got 2 big shows tomorrow, haven't we, mate? 2 big shows tomorrow. We've got we're doing the big match preview at 6 o'clock. Am I right in saying 6 o'clock? We're going a big match preview. And of course, Before the Whistle Blows is back once again at 8 o'clock. And of course, on Saturday, we'll have your lineup reaction, live watch along, post-match chat, live post-match chat again, and live player ratings, and pretty much everything. Every day, all these TV. Keep it locked, smash that subscribe button and like button. And I guess we'll leave it there, guys. Anyway, we'll see you later.